20 mile per hour speed limits. How can it be 20 miles per hour? 20 is so ridiculously slow. I can literally run faster than this. Are you dumb? We are doing 20 miles per hour through Wimbledon. Oh, that is an M320D right there. Very well-known M car, that actually. I think it's got like 800 brake horsepower. It's a hybrid petrol diesel. What is going on here? How can the sign be telling me to slow down? I'm doing 21 miles per hour. How can I be told to slow down at 21? Are you dumb? I genuinely just can't deal with London driving, man. No, there's no benefit to this, just take the tube. How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a video on driving my supercharged Mazda MX-5 in London. And it's going to be a little bit of a complainy video, I think, to some degree, because there's some stuff that I want to complain about in relation to driving in London, and none of them seem to come from the fact that I am driving completely the wrong car for the occasion. I have grown up in London. I was brought up in Zone 2 and we moved out to the outskirts for secondary school, and then so I've always been in and around the London area, and in that time it has only gotten more difficult, sadly, to drive in London, and it's only going to continue seemingly to get more difficult. Now, some of that is the fault of population sizing, and some of that is the fault of quite a few measures that have come in that significantly prohibit drivers. So we'll get into all of that, and I also wanted to talk to you very briefly about why I'm very happy that I got into this car when I did, and also show you how poor it is driving around London. But as always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So when I was a kid and I was being brought up in Zone 2 or Zone 3 or wherever it was that I was brought up, we didn't drive too much. You didn't really need to, because obviously if you're going into Central, you just jump on the tube, and if you were going anywhere in the local area, it was relatively easy just to walk there or get the bus or whatever. But now living on the outskirts, there are occasions where driving into London is useful. For example, today, where I have to deliver some charity equipment for my mum's charity. Now, back when I was a kid, it would have been fine to have driven straight through Central. You wouldn't have had any charges or whatever, particularly on Sunday, but obviously now the congestion charge runs 7 days a week, so I can't actually drive directly to the middle of central London, or I get charged like 12 quid or whatever. It might be more than that, I can't even remember at this point. Basically, I get charged cash. Add on the ultra low emission zone, which I would also be driving through in that case, and suddenly I'm poor after just 1 day of driving in London. Add on the fact that come October, all of this area that I'm currently driving in will be in that ultra low emission zone. It's going to become increasingly difficult even to drive stuff to outskirt locations in and around London. I'm heading towards Chelsea at the moment, and I wouldn't call this central London by any means. And all of this space is going to be ultra low emission zone. So if you have a car that is pre-2005 petrol or pre-2015 diesel, it will suddenly become very expensive for you to be running the car. What is going on here? I'm gonna have to do some madness right here. And by the way, I've clearly stated my point before on the whole sort of clean air and emissions debate and stuff, and yes, all for putting in ultra low emission zones and stuff. My one problem with it is that it kind of means that you have to keep updating your car over time, and I will do a video at some point on cheap cars that fit into the ultra low emission zone that ensures that people with less money can also drive their cars in and around London, but also places like Bath and Birmingham, etc., where these ultra low emission zones are coming in. I think it's quite an elitist law. I think it basically says to people that you need to be wealthy enough to afford to buy a car that it fits into the ultra low emission zone, and I don't think that there should be a monetary barrier on being environmentally friendly. You should be able to be environmentally friendly without having to pay shed loads of cash. And so hopefully my video on ultra low emissions cars will help with people that are struggling. Also, this is carnage. Why are people all parked up on a red route? Oh, I suppose it's a Sunday, isn't it? So we're all good. But yes, one of the other reasons why it's so unpleasant driving in London is because of how many cameras there are. I don't mean like cameras to watch where I'm going. I don't really care that much about that. I mean more about speed cameras. There are so many speed cameras, and that's for average speed limits or just like speed limits more broadly. And in a car like this that is quite quick and can surprise you at what speed you're suddenly going at, that can be quite dangerous. Now, I have never been caught speeding in London. We're all good. It's not something that I try my best to stay at the speed limit in London. It definitely is a deterrent, so I understand the benefit of it, but sometimes you just want to get on like middle of the night and there's very few people around, or it's like COVID period or whatever. you just want to kind of get on and do your thing. And on top of that as well, there are just roadworks everywhere in Central right now. Like literally every single road seems to have roadworks on it. Literally where I am right now, we've got narrow lanes, don't overtake cyclists or whatever. It's just constant. It's literally just constant roadworks and constant cameras, and charges you loads of cash to go around London and basically. And so I understand all of these things are just normal things that exist on the roads. Like it's calm. This is just how London is and how the world is. You got to accept it when you go and drive in London. But my thought process is driving in London is such an unpleasant experience, and then they charge you to do it. It's carnage, and now they're charging you to do it 7 days a week. Like genuinely, I find it crazy. If I pay for something, I genuinely pay for it because I think it's good, but I don't pay to drive around London because I think it's good. I pay because I have to, which I just think is annoying. Also, why are the roads so potholey in London now? Why can't we build a half decent road? I mean, I obviously have not contributed to road building at all other than in my taxpayers' money. But why can't we make decent roads? What's going on? There are two things that I like about driving around London though. Obviously, as I have come from London and I love London to bits, like it is my favourite place to live and work and whatever, I obviously like being able to drive around and view the city from a different perspective. And the other thing I like is that there are plenty of very nice cars around, and that's always a cool thing as a car YouTuber. People have literally kickstarted their YouTube careers by car spotting in central London. It's good here. So yeah, sorry, a little bit of a moan or a complaint or whatever, but just I know that a lot of my subscribers are from London, and I wanted to tell you guys my thoughts on what it is like to be here, just as I'm sure you guys are also aware. And of course there are shed loads of police around. Hello friends, how goes it? Nothing to see here, just a YouTuber in his supercharged Mazda MX-5, strapped in very nicely. I'm doing charity work, it's all good. Oh, and before I quit the whole complaining about London thing, one other thing that I think sucks is that whole like neighbourhoods initiative or whatever. Like the whole neighbourhoods thing where you're not going to be able to drive through certain areas, so you have to always drive on main roads and you can't drive through back roads. Mate, that is going to be carnage. The amount of back roads that are important for getting from place to place quickly, and also just alleviating the amount of strain on main roads, which in London main roads aren't really that like main. It's going to definitely be a different experience. I think that will be one of those things that gets gotten rid of quite quickly if the results turn out to be quite bad. So yes, there's probably quite enough complaining. Let me talk about something else that's slightly more interesting, which is the fact that very recently, one problem I just realised, I haven't put up my headlights. That's an important part of any Mazda MX-5 driving experience. As we're moving on to the MX-5, I thought they should probably go up. But I wanted to talk about MX-5 values, and I should probably do a proper video on this at some point, but I wanted to kind of air my thoughts over the last little while. Now, I bought this car for £1,000 in very reasonable working order. Yes, it had rust, and yes, it needed some work. The rear shocks had broken and all sorts of other stuff, but in general it was a pretty solid car. I've probably spent somewhere between £5 to £7,000 on it in total in terms of modifications and parts and rust proofing and paint job and all that other good stuff. So basically there's no way that I have reaccrued that by the recent appreciation of the MX-5, but I wonder if in the future I may be able to recoup some of that that loss or that spend, because these cars are genuinely going up in value very quickly at the moment. Now that is a London race. 0 to 30 miles per hour off the line. Save myself an extra half a second on this journey. Come on. But yes, the values of these cars is just going up and up and up. Have a look on Auto Trader right now. In fact, I'll try and overlay some footage if I remember to, of the prices of MX-5s. If you look on Auto Trader and you look for Mark 1 MX-5s, it is becoming increasingly difficult to spot any at £1,000. It used to be the case that you could easily get like a 1.6 automatic at £1,000. That was like just easy or normal to do. Now, that's just impossible. They are the cheapest MX-5s you can buy, and they come in at like a good like £2,000 maybe. £2,000 for a 1.6 automatic MX-5? Are you dumb? No disrespect to people who have auto MX-5s, but in my opinion, having an auto MX-5 is kind of just defeating the whole point. The whole idea of this car is it's like a raw driver's experience, and the 1.8 engine provides so much in terms of extra just grunt at the bottom end. And yes, the 1.6 is perfectly good as well. I know plenty of people who've properly like turbocharged their 1.6s and gotten a lot of power out of them, so I'm not anti that engine in particular, but they are cheaper for a reason. This is a 1.8 litre supercharged MX-5, which I bought for £1,000, obviously non-supercharged and stuff, but I bought it for £1,000. You're not getting this car again for £1,000. It's just not happening. I would estimate, and let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but I would estimate that the price of this car now would probably be about £3,000 if it was the state that it was when I bought it. How has the car tripled in its minimum value in under 2 years? I just get very lucky. I don't think I did, because at the time there were plenty of Mark 1 MX-5s available. 0 to 40. There were plenty of MX-5s available at this price range. This is just one of the many MX-5s that I was looking at the time. So how has the price gone up this much in the space of 1.5 years? Almost making me feel better about the fact that I won't be able to drive this car come October 2021 in London as a result of the ULEZ. Anyway, I will save those values for another video at some point, but I just wanted to air my initial happiness at the prices of MX-5s going up. Not that I have any plans to sell this car, obviously, but the other MX-5 I will probably be selling at some point. And also just put it to you guys to have a conversation about as well, like genuinely, why are they going up so much in value? I reckon it's probably because they are reaching that sort of classic status and they're becoming more desirable, and more of them are dying as a result of rust and all that other good stuff. In reality, I have no idea. They are just going up in value, and that makes me happy. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below anyway. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think on both the London issue, so what it's like driving in London, but then also why these cars are going up in value so much. Sorry if this video came across as complaining. I just wanted to also air my thoughts on what London is like to drive in. Obviously, you don't have to drive. You can just take public transport or whatever. You're not being forced to drive, but there are occasions like right now where I am literally carrying a table in the boot of my car, where driving would be much easier than having to take the train or whatever. As always, massive thanks to the patrons and to you guys as well for watching. I will see you in the next one.